I would like the Ninth National Assembly to be a reformed National Assembly. I want it to be, it has agenda as reformation and to target reformation. First and foremost, it needs to reform itself and correct the errors and missteps of 2019. They started on a wrong footing. They need to correct those missteps and set themselves on the right path and the right agenda. That's what I really want the National Assembly to do in 2019, into 2020.
Now you talk about reforms. Specifically, what do you mean? In what areas would you want to see these reforms, or what kind of reforms would you like to see in the National Assembly in 2020?
The Ninth National Assembly started on a false premise and wrong premises. It made itself an extension of the executive and was proud about it. The Senate President told his constituency that he would not fail President Buhari when he went to brief his constituency after he was inaugurated. That was a wrong move because the National Assembly is not supposed to be beholden to the executive. On the 12th, after the presidential statement, Democracy Day speech by the president on the 12th of June, on June 12th, to mark the first Democracy Day, June 12th, a senator from Plateau, the ID gang, said he wanted to x-ray the speech. He said, no, they cannot x-ray the president's speech. That was wrong. You cannot say the legislature cannot play its oversight role. The 8th Assembly had a resolution, the Senate had a resolution that henceforth, when the executive is sending a list of ministers, they should send a list of ministers with the portfolios. That way, every committee will now get to interview the ministerial nominees for the ministerial confirmation hearings and then report to plenary, because that's the standard practice. We have been practicing it wrongly for the committee of the whole to interview ministers without even knowing their portfolios. The 8th Assembly corrected itself and said henceforth the executive should bring portfolios and the names with portfolios so that the committees can interview them and then report to this. When it came to the Ninth Assembly repudiated its own House resolutions, its own Senate resolutions in order to please the executive. That is wrong. The finance bill that was just passed second reading without the senators even having a look at it, simply because they needed to please somebody. And then the House of Reps Speaker said he is not Speaker to fight the executive. What he is looking at is either you kowtow to the executive or you're fighting them. That's not your job. Your job is to be independent. They have not asserted their independence. They feel that they need to please the president as against pleasing Nigerians. Those are other areas, things they need to reform themselves. They have also been inbred. They have been looking at themselves, not at Nigerians. I would like them to reform themselves by focusing more on Nigerians, and lifting us up and improving our quality of lives rather than improving their own quality of lives. You would notice that one of the first things the Senate did was to give 50 million naira for their own vehicles. That was the first thing they did. That's not why they're in the National Assembly. What they are there is to represent the interest of Nigerians. Getting a 50 million naira vehicle is not improving the life of the Nigerians. It's only taking care of them. Plus the numerous other things they do to take care of themselves, not the rest of us. That would be the first thing, reorientation I would like them to have.
You're welcome back to The Gavel. We continue with the interview with public policy analyst Sesu Akume.
In terms of bills and motions, what kind of legislations would you want to see lawmakers in the Senate and the House of Representatives enact in 2020?
First and foremost, I would like them to work on the electoral bill, the Electoral Act 2010, and do a proper amendment of it and get the president to sign it. It is such an embarrassment that our elections are like war. I would like them to amend the Electoral Act to allow for electronic voting, electronic transmission of results, and the numerous other amendments they had made, and then to peg electoral funding so that we can even track how much is spent and how much is wasted and how it can be made justiciable. If you don't do that, there's a way it can be retired. Many of those things were captured in the in that. It just wasn't signed into law by Buhari. and then he said he would do that after his own election. I don't know what that means, but it hasn't been signed. I would like them to take that as a top priority, because as long as we don't fix our elections, we'll keep having this thing and wasting man hours. Look at how much time we spend in litigations and all of those. If we have electoral laws that are proper and they're implemented, and then that will be taken care of. I'd like them to pass the petroleum industry bill, all components of it. It's such an embarrassment that we're a country, we have crude oil, and we don't refine crude oil in Nigeria. We export crude oil, refine it there, and come back and sell it. And then we're spending 1 billion naira a day on fuel subsidy. Forget about the under recovery name they call it. It's fuel subsidy at 1 billion naira a day. That's so much waste. And then not only that, our refineries are losing. They just posted now that they lost 123 billion naira for refineries that are not working. The refinery is not doing its job, it's not working, and yet we're losing money on it. I'd like them to pass the petroleum industry bill and sort that issue once and for all. And then there are other laws I would like them to pass. There's the missing persons register. People just get missing, and there's nowhere to know whether someone was missing. You don't know where to lodge a complaint. You don't know where to do any of that. We should have a missing persons register. This thing has been worked on and is in the pipeline since 2015. Up to now, we don't have a missing persons register. So it means I'm talking to you here, I can get missing, and that's all. There's nobody, we don't even know where to place a complaint. You will know how to start tracking me and all of those. I would like them to work on that also.
Now, there's been a talk that, the National Assembly would amend the 1999 Constitution, maybe hopefully this year, as it happened in the 7th Assembly and the 8th Assembly. Specifically, what areas in the 1999 Constitution would you want to see amended?
I'm not very comfortable with the 1999 Constitution in its entirety. So if I'm going to be talking about myself and what should be done, I would rather say we should ditch it and write a new constitution entirely. But that's too much of a stretch. It's not realistic. Because in the first place, the constitution says we the people, so and so and so and so. It's not we the people who wrote the constitution. It was simply written and it was adopted when it should be adopted. That's false in the first place. And there's so many inconsistencies in the constitution. I'll point a few of them. We say we're a federal republic. Federal and a republic, and yet we run sort of a unitary system. That's why we have only one police force. In a federal system, we shouldn't have only one police. Every local government, every community should have their own police system, for instance. Those are aspects of the over-centralization. There's aspects whereby it says the governors are in charge of security in their states, and yet they cannot have security organizations in their state because on the exclusive security is on an exclusive list. It's an exclusive list, so they cannot have security organization. So how are they in charge of security in their states? And then the same constitution says that security and welfare are the primary reasons government exists, and yet you cannot exert your security except you report to Abuja. Those are fundamental. There are so many things in the constitution that could be changed and so many of them. I don't like those marginal changes that are made in the constitution each time they say they're amending them. I would like things that really shift things around, that really give powers to the states, to the local governments to turn things around. If they're not going to be doing that, maybe they should just concentrate on working on the other laws and moving motions that are important and other things that they can do. If they're not going to be doing those like fundamental things that really change the way things are run based on the 99 Constitution as it is.
Now, there's this perception in the public sphere that the 9th Assembly is a rubber stamp has so far showed itself to be a rubber stamp to the executive. What would you advise, lawmakers going forward to change this perception, specific actions that they can do to change this perception?
There is the perception, but it's not just a perception, it's actually a fact that it is a rubber stamp, and they have owned to it. The Senate President has said so, the Speaker has said so, that they're there to please the President, which is wrong. The first legislative body in Nigeria was in 1862, the Lagos Legislative Council, and they were actually appointed, but nobody, and from then up till now, till when we had the first Senate in 1959, nobody nobody ever said that they are beholden to the executive. Their job is to check the executive, to make sure that they do not have excesses, to make sure that they serve the people. But for now, they're not doing that. We would really like them to mind their words and to actually take actions that show that they are independent and they are there for the people. There's so many things that happen in Nigeria that you would expect a responsive National Assembly to act on, and they do not say anything about. For instance, the president's daughter used our presidential jet to go for a private engagement. The responsive thing to do is to summon the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, under whom all private jets are domiciled. He controls the movements of those. Let us know, how is it that a private citizen, because it's a daughter of the president, can fly our presidential jets? Is there a protocol on how to use our presidential jets? So if there is none, then that's when a policy can be enacted so that it doesn't repeat. But right now, maybe it's not there. So maybe there's a way I can, if I'm a president's son or daughter, I can talk to my father, he can talk to this person, and they can give me a jet to fly with taxpayers' money. Why? Look at the finance law, the newly signed finance law. It passed through second reading in court without anybody seeing it. How is that done? And then they increased the VAT by 2.5% without weighing how it's going to affect us. It is a bad law. I would really, that's part of the things I want them to do, to reverse the 2.5% increment.
There's the argument that this is how it can generate revenue to deal with the infrastructural challenges in the country.
So we can still go back to that. There's so many ways they've been generating revenues. First and foremost, those are part of the things I would like the National Assembly to do, to play its role as the accountability watchdog. They have not been playing that role. I gave an instance. In my constituency, there is Katsina Bridge, which in 2017 costed 2.25 million naira, 250 million naira, 250 million naira to fix a 1 kilometer bridge in 2017. It was passed in the 2017 budget. It was not done. No work went on it. In September 2019, the Ministry of Works told us that the same bridge is going for 3.77 billion naira. How? So 3.5 billion naira was created out of nothing. I did an FOI request to the ministry. How did this come about? I got no responses. I've had to sue them. Why? But that's my role as a private citizen, but I shouldn't be the one doing that. It's the National Assembly that passes budgets. So they should be the ones to go through and say, how is it that this same project was in this budget and it's here again and you're here again? In the same 2017 budget, there's a bridge called Kwatasule Bridge. It was budgeted for 600 million naira. The budget was passed in June of 2017. By July, this present minister was saying that bridge that is non-existent is for renovation. If they are scrutinizing our budget, scrutinizing things and looking at them that way, then they'll be playing their role. Life is getting tougher, but actually I would like the National Assembly to take on roles that will make things get better, because some policies can be reversed. Those are the kind of motions I would like them to move and to make things easier for us.
Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.